Good evening, John Henderson. John, you are with Beyond School Hours. So tell our viewers what Beyond School Hours is all about.
Sure. Well, the Beyond School Hours National Conference is a conference that was designed to address the needs of after school professionals, not just in the educational venue like in schools and charter schools, but also in youth development programs, everything ranging from the YMCA, Boys and Girls Clubs, and other programs that work with youth in all different levels of their development. And what we found is that so many people have passion about working with students, and programs are designed around the country to address students with certain kinds of needs, whether they're academic needs or interpersonal needs or just issues that they may be dealing with in their community that people try to help them with.
Okay.
But we did find that in terms of professional development and some of the training and support that teachers and other professionals need in order to continue that work, and also funding, that there was a little bit of a deficit with information and access to people and resources to connect them with seamless professional development. And so Beyond School Hours was put together. It turns out this is our 20th anniversary.
Oh, wonderful.
So yeah, 20 years ago, we had this concept of starting a small conference.
Okay.
It started in Philadelphia
Right.
at the Adams Mark Hotel, which is no longer in
Okay.
existence.
Right.
And we had about 90 people or so, many of which were friends and staff.
Okay.
And from that, the idea caught on, and those 90 people shared with other folks throughout the Philadelphia area. And eventually the federal government was also involved in a movement, a national movement, to start providing funding for different types and more robust after-school programs. And we were involved with them. And 20 years later, I hate to say, voila,
Right.
we're up to 2,000 people
Up to 2,000
on
people.
average per year.
Now, what is your position with Beyond School Hours?
I wish I knew.
Okay, because I see you all over the place.
Yeah.
You're working with the instructors and
Yeah.
just putting everything together, and even the way that we came together from Crown Management.
Absolutely.
Where you're hiring one of my artist, William Green.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
Every time we come to Atlanta, and now we're figuring out we're going to be in some other cities
Oh,
that
okay.
are not too far of a plane ride or a train ride away for
That's
William
right.
and other people like him that you work with, other artists, I should say.
Right.
He and what he represents is a big part of our conference, and that ties in with my role.
Okay.
So part of what I do at Foundations is really the marketing and communications for a lot of what the brand represents in education.
Okay.
The conference is just one event that we do to address that specific need in education, the after-school world. And shortly after 9/11, we learned that people who had, particularly teachers and other folks who work with children, who are not always going to make $1 million a year, but they
Right.
are on strict budgets, and their ability to travel for work-related professional development was limited.
Exactly.
So by the time they made a sacrifice to come to a national conference, we wanted to make sure that we addressed not just what they needed professionally, but
Right.
when people are afraid to fly and they have to make financial sacrifices and there's other things going on in their personal lives, it makes traveling and being away from home even more difficult,
Right.
than usual. We wanted to have a conference that really addressed them as human beings, that really took care of their every need, and in some cases, some of the things that they didn't think they would have access to,
Okay.
like fine entertainment. And we
Right.
use this hotel, among others, around the country because of the food and the level of customer service.
Okay.
Enter John.
Right.
So a big part of my job at Foundations is the public relations part of what we do.
Exactly.
And what part of public relations and sharing a time with people would be complete without music and entertainment that they can relate to,
Right.
no matter where they're from, what their backgrounds are, or what they went through to get here, traveling wise. And so as a musician myself, because I play personally, on the
Sure,
side,
sure.
I understood that music has a way of comforting people, and people recognize that you're thinking about their need.
Sure.
And I can't remember. I know it's been more than 10 years that we started talking
Exactly.
when we had one of our conferences here, and I said, I need to know somebody in the city that I can make one phone call and be in touch with some of the best artists,
Exactly.
in the country, basically. Because
Right.
once we started making that part of our conference, we knew we were going to have to replicate that in other parts of the country, Florida, California, Texas, other states that we go to. And I think it was really just a luck of lottery that we ended up talking.
Exactly.
And there wasn't an issue that I addressed that you didn't have an answer for and a solution for,
Oh.
and William was one of them,
Well,
basically.
that's wonderful.
So that
Now-
makes a long story short.
But Beyond School Hours, who's over this program? Who founded it?
Well, the organization Foundations is
Okay.
really the mother organization, if you will.
Okay.
And if you think of a wagon wheel model,
Okay.
each one of the spokes that Foundations does has something to do with education, with a
Right.
particular focus on underserved youth around the country.
Okay.
A lot of them are in what are called Title I neighborhoods, which most people recognize as free and reduced lunch
Right.
areas where they're dealing with the challenges of poverty or other things that are, I should say, speed bumps in their lives, in the educational process, whether that's something at home or an environment in their neighborhood that just makes it more difficult to concentrate and do well in school.
Okay.
So the conference started that way, and Foundations does several things for those types of students, with the conference being the only thing that we do on a regular basis that mobilizes this many professionals from around the country once a year.
Right.
Now, many of them go to other conferences which are similar,
Right.
but we think that our brand is a little bit different and unique in as much as the personal touch that we
Sure.
connect.
Sure.
And you know, it almost doesn't matter what industry it is or what job it is. People do relate to the comforts of the place where they're sleeping,
Okay.
just like home, of the food that they're eating, and also what they're doing to unwind and the things that make them. It's almost like the comfort food of existing on the road. And music has a lot to do with entertainment, has a lot to do with it.
Right.
So it's a vital part of our curriculum as the workshops themselves.
Right.
And over the years, our people recognize it, and they acknowledge William and other artists that we have. They acknowledge that special touch makes us unique.
So is there a CEO over Foundations?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Our CEO is Rhonda Lauer,
Okay.
who, by the way, today received what's called a Champion of Children Award. It's an
Okay.
award we typically give to other leaders out in the country.
All right.
This year, we had a little bit of not a practical joke, but the recipient of the award actually turned it around and gave it to our CEO because he thought that
that's
it
very
would be nice for somebody to acknowledge her, and he knew that she was never going to do it on her own.
Sure, sure.
But Rhonda had the vision of being a former teacher, principal, superintendent for a short period of time. She had the vision of really making sure that teachers and other folks who work with youth, realized they were cared about.
Sure.
And they were cared about beyond the criticism that's so easy for them to run into, whether it's from, what happens day to day in the classroom,
Right.
but also in public education in particular. There are a lot of hardworking educators out there,
Okay.
and they don't get acknowledged and receive the professional development that they need. So Rhonda had a vision of making that experience be a real positive thing, like an
Okay.
education vacation,
Sure,
if you will.
sure.
She is a visionary, and she also, I think, is extremely talented in finding people who love what they do,
Sure.
and she puts them in place,
Okay.
and the rest is history.
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, and I know you're busy, but I have one other question for you that's
Sure.
a bit off script.
Uh-huh.
Would you rather be rich or historically great?
That is an excellent question.
Okay.
Because I have more experience trying to be historically great.
Okay. Okay.
I have to say,
Okay.
I'm on that road,
Okay.
completely happy doing
All
what I
right.
do.
Okay.
And for me, Catherine, since I've been doing this a long time, working with youth in one capacity or the other,
Right.
nothing gives me the greatest reward than to be in my neighborhood or right outside of my neighborhood
Okay.
and run into students that I had that in one capacity or the other that have gone on to become productive adults in society. And I know that sounds almost like a script, if you will,
Sure.
but it happens on a regular basis for me.
Right.
And I think it happens on a regular basis for a lot of people that come to our conference. And so, in terms of being historically, great and known throughout the countryside, that may not be the path for all of us. But when you meet someone who you've had a part in their development, and
Right.
maybe it was just another day at work for you, but they acknowledge
Right.
that you helped them do something they couldn't do or get on a path that they wanted to be on, that does make you rich in a different kind of a way. So I'm guilty of being in that path one way or the other. So.
John Henderson, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Beyond
Appreciate
School
it.
Hours, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I look forward to working with you some more.
We'll be back in 2019, but we're going to work in
Absolutely.
between too
Okay.
as well.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Take care.
Good.